The gravel crunched under the tires like bones snapping in the quiet, and I killed the engine just as Mason's laughter died on the wind. He slapped my shoulder, oblivious, but I caught it then. The silhouette in the cabin window, tall and unyielding, staring out like a ghost who'd forgotten how to leave. "Finn, you good? Looks like you saw Bigfoot or something." I forced a grin, but my pulse hammered against my ribs. That wasn't just any shadow. It was Elijah, Mason's older brother, the one we'd all whispered about back in high school. The guy who vanished after graduation, leaving rumors like breadcrumbs. And now, here he was, his eyes locking on mine through the glass, dark and stormy as the lake beyond, pulling me under before I even stepped out of the car. Haven Point, Maine. That's what the faded sign said at the turnoff. Rusted letters curling like old secrets. We'd driven 12 hours from Seattle in my beat-up Subaru, windows down until the Cascades gave way to endless evergreens, the air turning crisp with that East Coast bite. Mason had pitched it as the ultimate escape. His family's lake house, untouched since their dad passed 5 years back. "Just us, bro," he'd said over beers at our favorite dive bar. "No drama, no exes, no bullshit. Fish, hike, get wrecked by the fire pit." I'd nodded too quick, desperate for anything to shake the numbness that had settled in since my last breakup. A ghosting that left me questioning every swipe on the app, every late-night text that went unread. But this wasn't just us. Elijah's truck was parked crooked in the drive. A black Ford F-150 with mud caked on the tires like it had clawed its way out of some personal hell. Mason hadn't mentioned him. Not once. We hauled our duffels up the steps, the porch groaning under our boots. The cabin was all knotty pine and nostalgia. Sagging wicker chairs, a swing that creaked in the breeze, the lake stretching out like a mirror cracked by wind. Mason kicked the door open with his heel. "Elijah, you alive in there? Or did the loons finally get you?" A shadow detached from the kitchen gloom. Elijah Reed stepped into the light, wiping his hands on a dish towel, his frame filling the doorway like he owned the shadows. 6'3", easy, with shoulders that strained his faded Henley, and a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. His hair was dark, cropped close on the sides but longer on top, tousled like he'd been running his fingers through it all night. Those eyes, storm gray, flecked with something haunted, flicked over Mason first, then settled on me, heavy, assessing. "Loons wish they could handle me," he said, voice low and gravelly, like whiskey over ice. He clapped Mason on the back, a quick, brotherly thing, but his gaze lingered on me a beat too long. "Who's the stray?" Mason laughed, shoving me forward. "Finn Harper, my ride or die from back home. Finn, this is Elijah, the black sheep who thinks Portland's got better IPAs than Seattle." I extended a hand, feeling exposed under that stare. His grip was firm, calloused palms from whatever manual labor he'd thrown himself into since disappearing. "Heard a lot about you," I said, which was a lie. Mason rarely talked family, especially not after their mom's slow fade from cancer, the one that splintered them all. "All lies, then?" Elijah replied, a ghost of a smile tugging his lip, but his eyes didn't smile. They searched like he was peeling back layers I hadn't even admitted to myself. We settled in quick, the rhythm of old friends masking the undercurrent. Mason cracked open the cooler, beers sweating in the humid air, and we dragged chairs to the dock. The lake lapped gentle at the pilings, sun dipping low and painting everything gold. Stories flowed easy. That time we streaked across Campus Quad after finals, or the winter Mason's truck got stuck in a snowbank and we pushed it out barefoot. Laughter echoed off the water, but I kept stealing glances at the cabin. Elijah stayed inside, shadow moving behind curtains, like he was orbiting us but never landing. Dinner was burgers on the grill, smoke curling up as the sky bruised purple. Mason manned the flames, flipping patties with theatrical flair, while I chopped onions on the picnic table, tears stinging more from memory than the blade. "So, Portland, huh?" I called to Elijah, who leaned against the railing, nursing a bottle, his profile etched against the twilight. He nodded, slow. "Yeah, construction gigs. Keeps the hands busy." Mason snorted. "Keeps him from calling home. Mom's ghost would haunt his ass otherwise." Elijah's jaw tightened, just a flicker, but I caught it. Something like that. The silence stretched, broken only by the sizzle of meat. I wanted to ask more. Why the vanishing act? Why the walls? But Mason launched into a story about their childhood summers here. Skinny dipping at midnight, racing canoes till dawn. Elijah listened, adding dry asides that made Mason howl, but his eyes kept drifting to me. Each time, a spark jumped, low in my gut. I'd always known I was gay, out since 16 in a town that mostly shrugged, but this felt different. Raw. Like he saw the parts one hid even from myself. The ache for something real, not the hookups that left me hollow. Night fell heavy, stars pricking the ink-black sky. We built a fire in the pit, flames dancing wild, casting shadows that twisted like confessions. Mason pulled out a joint, passing it my way, but I waved it off. Gotta drive us back sometime, I said, though we both knew that was bullshit. Truth was, the smoke would have blurred the edges I was already tracing with Elijah's every glance. He sat across from me, knees up, firelight carving hollows under his cheekbones. You always this responsible, Harper? Only when I'm outnumbered. I shot back, and Mason hooped, oblivious to the current pulling between us. Talk turned loose, memories spilling like the whiskey Mason uncapped. Elijah shared sparingly. A bar fight in Tacoma that left him with a scar above his eye, faint silver against his tan skin. A road trip south that ended in a motel with regrets he wouldn't name. His voice wrapped around the words, deep and unhurried, drawing me in. I found myself leaning forward, chin on knees, the heat from the fire nothing compared to the burn in his stare. Mason yawned first, staggering inside with mutters about the lumpy couch. Don't stay up too late plotting world domination, you two. The screen door slapped shut, leaving us in the crackle and quiet. Elijah poked the fire, sparks rising like fleeting prayers. He's always been the light one. Me? I carry the dark. I swallowed, the air thick between us. Dark's not all bad. Hides the stars sometimes. He looked up then, really looked, and the world narrowed to that gray gaze. You ever feel like you're drowning in it, Finn? Like no matter how hard you swim, the water's got your name on it. My breath caught. Yeah. God, yeah. The apps, the endless scrolling for connection that fizzled into nothing. The way I'd stare at my reflection some mornings, wondering if the compass tat was a map to nowhere. Every damn day, I admitted, voice barely above the flames. He nodded like he'd known. Then, quiet as the lake, he reached over, his fingers brushing mine. Just a graze, but electric. Skin on skin, rough and real. I didn't pull away, neither did he. We talked till the fire died to embers, words weaving tentative bridges over chasms I hadn't mapped. His laugh came rare, but when it did, it rumbled low, warming places I'd forgotten were cold. By the time we banked the coals and headed in, the cabin felt smaller, charged, like the walls held their breath. I claimed the loft, a cramped space with a single bed and a skylight framing the moon. Sleep evaded me, sheets twisting as I replayed the night. That touch, those eyes. Downstairs, floorboards creaked. Elijah pacing maybe, or just the house settling. I wondered about his secrets, the ones etched in the lines around his mouth, the tension in his shoulders. Portland wasn't just gigs. I could feel it. Something fractured there, pulling him back to this forgotten corner of Maine. Dawn crept in gray, mist rising off the water like steam from a sigh. I slipped downstairs for coffee, the pot hissing on the counter. Elijah was there, back to me, staring out the kitchen window at the dock. His shirt clung damp from morning dew, muscles shifting under fabric as he gripped the mug. Morning, I said soft, not wanting to shatter the quiet. He turned, surprise flickering before settling into that guarded warmth. Couldn't sleep, too much on my mind. I poured a cup, leaning beside him, our arms inches apart. The lake stretched endless, a canvas of fog and possibility. We stood like that, sipping in silence, the world outside blurring. Then he spoke, voice rough from disuse. Last time I was here, everything went to hell. Dad's accident. Mom's letters piling up. I ran because staying felt like choking. I set my mug down, turning to face him. Up close, the scar above his eye was a thin white slash, a story begging to be told. Running doesn't fix it, just delays the dive. His gaze dropped to my mouth, then back up, heat flaring. And diving? What if the water's deeper than you thought? Before I could answer, Mason burst in, hair wild, grinning like the sun. Pancakes, bitches! Who's helping? The moment fractured, but the echo lingered. All day, it hummed under the surface. Hikes through pine-scented trails where Elijah's hand steadied me over roots. Boat rides where our knees bumped in the cramped bow. Mason joked and splashed, the golden boy, but I saw the cracks. The way Elijah's smile faltered when Mason mentioned their dad. The distant stare when laughter peaked. Evening brought rain, sheets of it drumming the roof like impatient fingers. We huddled inside, cards scattered on the rug, bourbon loosening tongues. Mason dealt poker, stakes rising with each hand. Truths for chips, dares for bluffs. Your turn, Finn, he said, eyes gleaming. Biggest regret? I hesitated, glass cold against my palm. Elijah watched, unblinking. Loving someone who couldn't love me back, I said finally, the words heavy as the storm outside. Mason whistled low. Deep, man. Elijah, yours. He drained his glass, setting it down deliberate. Hiding who I am from the people who should have known me best. The room stilled. Mason's cards froze mid-shuffle. What? Elijah's eyes never left mine. I'm gay, Mason. Have been since we were kids stealing glances at the lifeguards. But after Dad, after everything, I buried it. Portland was supposed to be a fresh start. But secrets have a way of rotting you from the inside. Mason blinked, processing, then laughed. Not cruel, but disbelieving. Dude, you're messing with me. Remember that girl in high school? The one you... Cover. Elijah cut in, voice steel. All of it. Covers and lies till I couldn't breathe. The rain hammered harder, thunder rumbling distant. Mason's face crumpled, confusion twisting to something sharper. Why didn't you say? We could've. You were the perfect son. I didn't want to taint that. Elijah stood, restless, pacing to the window. Lightning flashed, illuminating the strain in his neck. I rose too, heart pounding. It's not tainting. It's truth. Mason shot me a look, edged with betrayal. You knew. No, but I get it. My voice cracked, the weight of my own hidden fractures pressing in. I told Mason years ago, easy as breathing, but Elijah's confession cracked something open in me. A mirror to the parts I'd armored over. The night unraveled slow. Mason stormed out to the porch, rain soaking his shirt, leaving Elijah and me in the charged hush. I stepped closer, tentative. That took guts. He turned, water dripping from his hair where he'd splashed his face in the sink. Or stupidity. Now he's looking at me like I'm a stranger. You're his brother. Blood's thicker than storms. I reached out, fingers grazing his arm, solid and warm. He didn't pull away. Instead, he closed the gap, his hand cupping my jaw, thumb tracing the line of my stubble. The kiss came fierce, born of too many unspoken nights. His lips crashed into mine, tasting of bourbon and salt, hands fisting my shirt as if I'd vanish. I kissed back hungry, pouring in the loneliness we'd both carried, bodies pressing close in the dim kitchen light. He backed me against the counter, a low groan escaping as my fingers tangled in his hair. It was messy, desperate, teeth nipping, breaths mingling. The rain a wild soundtrack to our unraveling. We broke apart gasping, foreheads touching. Finn, he murmured, voice wrecked. I can't drag you under. You won't? I whispered, even as doubt flickered. Mason's face outside the window, shadowed and alone. But in that moment, with Elijah's heart hammering against mine, the world felt salvageable, fragile but whole. The storm passed by midnight, leaving the air scrubbed clean, stars winking through ragged clouds. Mason had crashed on the couch, passed out with a half-empty bottle clutched like an anchor. Elijah and I slipped upstairs to the loft, the ladder creaking under our weight. We didn't speak much, just shed clothes in the moonlight, skin meeting skin with a reverence that bordered on ache. His body was a map of hard-earned scars, faded bruises from job sites, the taut lines of a man who'd fought his own gravity too long. I traced them with lips and fingers, learning the terrain, the dip of his collarbone, the V of his hips, the way he shuddered when I whispered his name. He moved like contained thunder, gentle at first, then urgent, our rhythms sinking in the narrow bed. Sweat-slick and breathless, we chased release together, the loft a cocoon against the world's sharp edges. After, tangled in sheets that smelled of pine and us, he traced my compass tat with a fingertip. "Where's it pointing you, Finn?" I shifted, propping on an elbow to meet his gaze, soft now in the afterglow. "Wasn't sure, till now." He smiled, faint but real, pulling me close. Sleep came easy then, his arm heavy across my waist, breath steady against my neck. For the first time in years, the numbness receded, replaced by a warmth that scared me as much as it healed. Morning broke clear, the lake a sapphire sheet under relentless sun. Mason was up first, coffee brewing with mechanical precision, his eyes red-rimmed but steady. He nodded when we descended, Elijah first, me trailing with rumpled hair and a flush I couldn't hide. "We need to talk," Mason said, sliding mugs across the table. No anger, just raw edges. We sat, the kitchen bright and unforgiving. Elijah gripped his cup like a lifeline. "I'm sorry I dropped it like that. Should have eased you in." Mason rubbed his temples, exhaling slow. "It's not the gay part, man. It's the years. The silence. Like I didn't even know you." His voice cracked, glancing at me. "And you, jumping in. Feels like betrayal squared." My stomach twisted. "Mason, it's not. I get it." He cut in, sharper than intended. "You're both hurting. But this weekend was supposed to be us. Clean slate. Now it's complicated." Elijah leaned forward, elbows on knees. "It doesn't have to be. I'm not running anymore. Not from you." The words hung, heavy with promise. Mason searched his brother's face, then mine, the tension coiling like lake fog. Finally, he nodded, tentative. "Okay, but no more secrets. And Finn, if this blows up, I'm punching you both." Laughter broke the ice, brittle but genuine. We spent the day rebuilding. Fishing off the dock, lines cast into the glassy water, stories traded without the bourbon filter. Elijah opened up in fragments. His first crush on the neighbor boy at 12, hidden kisses in the boathouse, the Portland bar where he finally said it aloud to a stranger who became a lover, only for it to shatter when family whispers reached them. Betrayal, he called it, not from the guy, but from the world that made love feel like a liability. I shared too, the Seattle nights scrolling profiles, the hookup that left me staring at ceilings, wondering if connection was just a myth. Mason listened, adding his own confessions. The pressure of being the good son, the girls he dated to fit the mold, the quiet envy of my ease in coming out. By afternoon, as we paddled kayaks across the cove, the air felt lighter, bonds mending like frayed rope. But undercurrents lingered. That night, as fireflies blinked over the water, Mason pulled me aside on the path to the woodpile. "He's solid, Finn, but damaged. Don't let the romance blind you to the wreckage." I nodded, throat tight. "I see it, but maybe that's why it fits." He clapped my shoulder, eyes searching. "Just be careful. For all of us." Elijah waited by the pit, logs stacked neat, his silhouette a promise in the dusk. When I approached, he drew me into his side, arm loose but sure. "Everything good?" "Yeah," I murmured, leaning in. "Better than." The kiss was softer this time, exploratory, the fire we'd build mirroring the one inside. Mason joined us later, beer in hand, and for a stretch, it was perfect. 3 souls orbiting a fragile peace, the lake whispering approvals. Yet dawn brought the fracture. My phone buzzed relentless on the nightstand, pulling me from Elijah's warmth. Texts from Seattle. My ex, Jake, spilling apologies in a flood. "Miss you. Made a mistake. Come back." Then voicemails, voice slurred with regret, painting pictures of second chances I'd once begged for. Elijah stirred, eyes opening to my tension. "Bad news." I deleted the thread, heart pounding. "Old ghosts." He sat up, sheets pooling at his waist, concern etching his brow. "The kind that follow you home?" "Used to." I forced a smile, but it wobbled. Jake's words clawed at insecurities I'd buried. The way he dismissed my needs, called my emotions too much, left me splintered. Downstairs, Mason sensed it too. his questions gentle over breakfast. But the day soured quick. A hike turned argument when Elijah snapped at a wrong turn, frustration boiling over from sleepless nights. "This place digs up shit I thought I'd buried," he admitted later, alone on the dock, feet dangling in the chill water. I sat beside him, stones skipping across the surface from my throws. "Like what?" He hesitated, gaze distant. "Dad found out. About me. Night before the accident. Yelled things. Called it a phase, a weakness. Said it'd ruin the family." His voice hollowed. "Drove off mad. Wrapped around a tree 2 hours later." The confession landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading. "Jesus, Elijah. That's not on you." "Feels like it." He turned, eyes raw. "And now, with you, I don't want to poison this too." "You won't." I cupped his face, thumbs brushing tears he wouldn't let fall. "We're not phases. We're real." The kiss that followed was salvation, fierce and affirming, bodies aligning on the rough wood as the sun climbed. But Mason walked up mid-embrace, freezing us. His face shock, then fury. "What the hell, Finn? After last night?" "It's not," I started, but he wheeled on Elijah. "You knew he'd bail. Always do. Dragging my best friend into your mess." Elijah stood, defensive. "This isn't about you, Mason. Everything's about family," Mason shouted, voice echoing off the pines. "You ghost us, show up broken, and now steal him? Betrayal on top of betrayal." The words sliced deep, old wounds reopening. I stepped between them, hands raised. "Stop. This is us, all of us. Messy, yeah, but honest." Mason's eyes welled, betrayal etching lines too old for 22. "Honest? Feels like I'm the idiot left holding the bag." He stormed off, truck keys jangling, gravel spitting as he peeled out. Silence crashed in, heavy as the wake. Elijah sank back, head in hands. "Told you. Poison." I knelt before him, gripping his knees. "No. This is the storm before clear. We face it together." He looked up, shattered but reaching. "Together." "Yeah." I pulled him close, the dock our island amid the churn. We spent the afternoon in limbo, Mason's absence a void. Texts went unread, calls straight to voicemail. Elijah paced the cabin, guilt carving him hollow, while I brewed tea neither of us drank, the lake mocking our smallness. Dusk fell early, shadows lengthening like accusations. Then headlights cut the drive. Mason's truck, returning muddied and slow. He entered without a word, dripping rain from a sudden squall, face streaked and unreadable. "Saw a deer," he said finally, voice thick. "Almost hit it. Reminded me of Dad. How one slip, and it's over." Elijah moved first, tentative. "I'm sorry." Mason nodded, sinking onto the couch. "Me too. For blowing up. It's just, losing you once was bad enough. Thought this weekend was glue." "It can be," I said, perching on the arm, "if we let it." He glanced between us, sigh ragged. "You too. It's real." Elijah met his gaze, steady. "Real as this place. As us." Mason rubbed his eyes, a ghost smile breaking. "Fine. But if you're banging in the loft again, soundproof it. Walls are thin." Laughter bubbled, tentative, ceiling cracks. We ordered pizza, greasy comfort from town, and talked till stars wheeled overhead. No more hiding. Elijah's Portland ex, the one who'd outed him to coworkers after a fight, forcing the move. My Jake, the charm that masked control, leaving me to rebuild alone. Mason confessed his own drifts, by curiosities buried under frat boy armor, fears of not measuring up. By firelight, bonds reformed, deeper for the breaks. Elijah's hand found mine under the blanket, fingers lacing sure. Mason caught it, rolled his eyes, but the warmth in his grin said enough. The last day dawned golden, a farewell laced with promise. We packed slow, lingering on the dock where it all ignited. Mason hugged Elijah fierce, whispers lost to wind. Then me, his grip lingering. "Take care of each other, and call. No more ghosts." "Deal," I said, throat tight. Elijah and I drove separate. Mason with me, Portland bound for him, but caravan till the highway split, taillights fading like reluctant goodbyes. In the rear view, the lake house shrank, a sentinel holding our truths. Weeks blurred into rhythm. Texts from Mason, group chats laced with memes and check-ins. Late calls with Elijah, voices bridging miles, planning weekends in Seattle or Maine. The compass on my skin felt alive, pointing not north, but home, toward a man who saw my fractures and stayed. One rainy night, as thunder rolled over the sound, Elijah showed up unannounced, duffel slung over shoulder, eyes alight. "Couldn't wait," he said, pulling me into the downpour kiss on my stoop. We made love slow that night, bodies mapping futures in the flicker of street lamps. No secrets left to unearth, just soil rich for growing. Betrayal's sting faded to lessen. Love isn't flawless. It's the choice to dive anyway, compass steady through the storm. In the quiet after, tangled and spent, he murmured against my skin, "This changes everything." I smiled into his hair. Good. And it was. Human, messy, free. Our story, etched in lake water and starlight, a testament to compassion's quiet power.